Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas. I'm going to be your host today, and this is episode 271, where we're going to be talking about how to tackle TikTok. Now, whenever there's a relatively new and different platform that game studios aren't familiar with, it can be a very daunting task to create a presence, let alone one that will generate results. And for many, that's TikTok. But despite its differences, TikTok is proving to be an effective platform for creating awareness and results. And thankfully, our guest today is here to share her experience with the platform and help navigate its nuances so you have a better idea of how to tackle TikTok. So that's what we're going to be talking about right here today on Indie Game Movement. Hey everybody, and we're back, and today with us I have Eylul from Sarepta Studio. Eylul, how's it going? I'm so glad that you're here with us today.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm just gonna, give the floor to you. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do for the studio, what kind of projects you're working on, and then if you could take a moment to provide, some insight to your personal life in terms of what types of fun activities you do when you're not working.
Okay, so I am Eylul Ozekes. I am the marketing and community manager of Sarepta Studio. We are a studio based in Hamar, Norway, and we tend to create emotional and atmospheric games, or like our tagline that is not really official is that we make games that make you cry.
Ooh, okay. And, nice.
Yeah. Our most well-known project is My Child Lebensborn. It's a mobile/PC console game based on real history of children born of war, and where you play as the adoptive parent of a 6-year-old Lebensborn child. And the game is based on the real interviews that we made with real-life children born of war. In the post-World War II Norway, there were children born of German soldiers and Norwegian mothers, and they faced immense backlash. So yeah, in the game we kind of covered that. It won a BAFTA, which was really cool.
Wow.
And now we are making 2 more games, hopefully that still has that making you cry tone. One is called Project Thalassa, where you play as a deep sea diver and kind of face topics of grief and loss. And we are also working on a second My Child game, where we step away from the history and focus more on the rebuilding after trauma and parenting children aspect.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's just, I gotta say, that's amazing. Talk about creating games that generate impact. I mean, there you have it. The first title you mentioned, it kind of gave me some quick flashbacks or memories of Grave of the Fireflies. That Studio Ghibli.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but still, that's and being a parent too. That's I don't know. I haven't checked them out yet. I definitely need to, but that's awesome that type of stuff that you guys do. So when you're not making games that make people cry and helping market them, what are you doing to have fun and leisurely activities when not being busy?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of a musical theater nerd, so I do sing a lot. I do a little bit of acting. I suck at dancing, so that's still not the triple threat there. And I also, I don't know, I play games, I guess, which is what's expected from game industry people.
Right. No, that's awesome. And especially the whole musical aspect. I myself start doing that sometimes, especially with the kids, my kids loving Encanto, which, blew up and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I think I am the child in that scenario. My husband cannot stand Bruno anymore because I keep singing it.
That's hilarious. At one point, I told my wife, I'm like, you got to stop asking. We have an Alexa Echo or whatever. And I'm like, you got to stop asking her to play Bruno, because it's just, I'm waking up in mornings and the first song that plays in my head is that. It's just,
you wake up with the no.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's hilarious. But that's awesome, and just That's great. Just like filling yourself with and like just various entertaining moments just by singing. So sweet.
Yeah.
At the expense sometimes of your husband, it seems.
Yes, he is used to it at this point, I think. It's just always karaoke nights every Saturday until forever.
Until
Until work starts, I guess.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that about yourself. But we want to get to know you a little bit more. So what we're going to do is put you in the Q box round. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the Q box round is simply a series of random questions that we prepared for Eylul today. And I just need to ask you, are you ready for the Q box round?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Ice cream or frozen yogurt?
Ice cream, easy.
Nice. Most influential or inspiring game?
Toss between Disco Elysium for me
Oh, okay.
and
Yep.
To the Moon
To the moon. All
is
right.
another emotional game that makes you cry.
That sounds very fitting in terms of
Yeah.
what you're focused on. Great. One country you always wanted to visit.
Japan. I
Ah,
always wanted to go there.
I've been there myself. It's amazing. I second that you should definitely go and whenever you have the opportunity.
Yeah, my dream was to be an English teacher there for like a month during my
Yes.
study.
Yes, that's
But
such a yep, that's a very common and easy one to do for the most part, but from what I understand anyways, but well,
yeah,
maybe I'm sure someday that will happen. So definitely strive for it. It's a great place, and I know you'll love it.
yeah,
Uh, it
definitely looking forward.
excellent. If you could only watch one movie for a day, what would it be?
Pride and Prejudice,
Ah,
probably
a classic.
my comfort movie.
Nice. All right, and the staple here on the show is what game are you playing now?
Dragon Age Inquisition, which is quite late of me to play, I know. But yeah, I love it. I didn't play it before, but it's the type of game that I love, so.
Excellent. Well, it doesn't matter how old or new these games are. We're just loving when people are playing them. In fact, a few guests ago, someone said that basically they said, I think it was like an old board game or Risk or something along those lines. So we
Ooh,
don't discriminate as long as you're playing something, and it could be just I know. Yeah, we don't discriminate as long as you're playing something in whatever capacity. We're happy to hear. So. All right,
definitely.
folks. Well, again, thank you so much for your answers there and sharing a little bit more to get some more personal insight. But now we're going to get into the meat of the conversation here, which is how to tackle TikTok. And honestly, I mentioned this in the intro, but like, getting into TikTok, a new platform, it can kind of be, daunting and things along those lines. But we know that certain platforms, especially TikTok, there's a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people thinking about it. But in light of that, I figured we would kick this conversation off with like, what kind of questions should game devs and studios ask before even tackling TikTok?
Yeah. I guess the first question comes into mind is what do they expect from the platform?
Okay.
Do they aim for awareness? Do they want to build a community there? And TikTok is super versatile, I would say. So you can actually do almost everything, even though I think it's the best platform for awareness right now.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely setting your expectations from it shapes your strategy with it as well. And then will you be there as a studio brand, or are you trying to just use it for your specific game? Which is an old age question that you kind of always ask when you're setting up social profiles.
Right.
Should I set this for our studio, or is it the game only? And also, how much time can you dedicate on this, and what are your expectations from its growth, depending on your time as well? Since, yeah, it does change a lot of the things that you get out of it, depending on how much you can nurture it. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's really important because I mean, you listed a lot of really good things there in terms of, hey, what's your focus? Is it community? Is it awareness? What type of expectations are you setting? Probably for people who are receiving this content, but also for yourself, right? And then, like you said, that main conversation in terms of, is it brand, is it game focus, what's the end game here in terms of ultimately what's the most you want to get out of it. So yeah, definitely really good types of questions to ask
Oh,
for considering that.
also, one additional thing: how many people in the team are willing to be involved in
Yes.
this process is a good one. Because, for example, at Sarepta, it all started off as me being this like scary human being just walking around asking people to film cringy TikToks. At least that was the perception. And now they're slowly getting used to it, like seeing, oh, okay, this is not that cringy. This is actually kind of fun. But setting those like people that might be willing to be a part of your TikToks is also important.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that because like sometimes we may think about, a platform like TikTok as almost like a lot of other platforms that are being used, and it could be, and the simple idea could be like, hey, we're just slapping a video and posting it and calling it a day, but it's not so much quite like that. And I'm sure we're going to get more into the specifics, but still, like, who's putting that together? Again, like what you said, like time and resources, and then also what either persona or messaging are you conveying, and is it in line with the platform and how people receive it? I think that's, again, we're going to get more into that in a moment, but it goes into what you were saying about who's doing this and are they comfortable with doing it, and who is comfortable, because it's a very important factor that you just mentioned there. So I'm glad you said that too. All right.
Definitely.
So, with all that in mind, there's still probably a lot of different nuances and everything else, and I want to like kind of change the focus a little bit in terms of understanding and ways to approach this platform. So,
Hmm.
one thing, in which I alluded to earlier, that I think would be important is kind of understanding what are the main differences, between TikTok and other platforms that people may use to create awareness.
Yeah, I guess one of the first points is, as you mentioned, it's very much more personal on TikTok. It's not like a YouTube promo video that you put out or a small Twitter with a GIF from your game. It benefits a lot from being a lot more human rather than like being very promo marketing type of feeling around it. So that's definitely a big difference. It being a lottery in its setting is a very charming difference in my head because usually when you put out content, and I speak here as a marketing and community manager rather than a game developer, so I am used to creating content, but I'm also very saddened when that content is kind of buried under other new stuff that we're doing. But on TikTok, if it's a high quality content, it could kind of live on.
Hmm.
And if you kind of get hit by that lottery of TikTok where you're on For You page and a lot of people see it, it really doesn't matter when you shared it. It just keeps going. And maybe it kind of circles back from time to time, even. So that's really good. It being sound based is a very big difference because, again, on other social media, you kind of focus on hashtags or focus on what you say, maybe. But on TikTok, sound boosts things a lot, and it you kind of have to work with the sounds rather than making the platform work with your content. And again, due to the sound thing, trends are more critical on TikTok rather than other social media. Because on other social media, yeah, you can miss a trend and then something else happens like maybe 3 months after. But on TikTok, there's always something going on. So you kind of have to be aware and catch the trends that are fitting for your niche as well. And yeah, the algorithm is quite great at niches. So just focusing on your niche, focusing on your tone, becomes a lot more, I guess, important, and it's easier on TikTok. Again, I'm usually like thinking of Twitter, for example.
Hmm.
Your niche is very much your profile, and if people are not really looking for you, it's really hard to reach those niches. But on TikTok, if you are a part of that niche, you are in this like group that just keeps sharing content that are similar to each other, but it's still being shared around. Like you always see other people as well, and other people see you, rather than you looking for those niches. And I think that's pretty cool. The only similar platform that does this is Instagram's discovery page, which is not that good in comparison to TikTok, I believe.
Mm.
And even though I like keep saying these like invested things, it's actually very low effort and high return. Because again, for many other places, you kind of have to build something up and boost it all the time. But on TikTok, you can just do a 5 minute video, like, I mean, 5 minute worth of video. That's, I don't know, like 7 seconds. And it could just get you a ton of attention. So that's a big difference.
Nice. I love all these points that you lay out, and there's a lot here. The main one that you kind of like closed with there was like a low investment and high return,
Yeah.
and based off of all those other factors you listen. Now, um, just to quickly go back on a couple things. So when you're saying lottery, that's kind of like in another way of saying like kind of the algorithm in terms of how it works in terms of like, hey, you make a post. If it didn't do that great, okay, fine. But then you can make another post, and if it was, let's say, kind of like right moment, right time, there's more of that discoverability happen in terms of really having that like surface and other people seeing it. Correct? Am I right in that?
Yeah, definitely.
And
An example to that, a
yep.
few days ago, I posted something, but TikTok ate half of it. That was like a half of a video.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went, oh, okay, I will post this again, but properly. And
Mm,
it was the wrong timing. It was the wrong, I guess it's the second, like the same content, second time around, but
mm-hmm.
it still performed like quite well. And it actually was trending, like it was on For You page a little bit. So even if you mess something up, like it's very okay on TikTok. You can just like redo it, try another thing, and it values it. Like it doesn't just say, like you missed your chance.
Right, exactly. Which again goes into why you're saying like in terms of the impact too, because there's a lot more opportunities it sounds to create that awareness, even if that you like even if you found that at first it didn't work out that well. So
Yeah.
again, really glad that you called that out. The other thing I think is interesting too is you mentioned how it's sound based, and in terms of sound based, that's more along the lines of like it could be music and obviously other forms of audio too. But would you say it's typically music, but it doesn't necessarily have to be music?
It definitely doesn't have to be music at all. It's just for those new to TikTok. I think TikTok right now just became a platform where you create memes all the time,
Mm.
and you take a sound out of a video and use it in many different contexts.
Hmm.
And that's actually how niches are created because,
Ah.
again, one sound could be very straightforward. I'm trying to think of an example. For example, a few days ago, we just posted something saying, "Oh, what would you like?" There was this sound from an interview where the person was going, "What do you take from this entire experience?" And the person replying was, "I would do it again." This could be very like straightforward. It could be very serious. It could be very funny in different circumstances. For us, we just had a lot of players replaying My Child Levinsporn at the time, so we were just showing the end of the game and then saying, "Yeah, we're gonna replay this again," and it fits our niche. So just playing around with those different types of sounds and trying to see how it fits in your circumstances is the whole like thing that I praise about TikTok, I think.
Nice. And I like that you say that too, because I think a lot of people, in terms of, especially if they're not too familiar or heard somewhat about the platform or experienced it a little bit, like, because when you first start up an account in the For You page, basically the For You thing too, for those of you who aren't familiar, are when you create an account and TikTok's like randomly serving you stuff to see like, hey, what do you like, what do you don't like? And by how you
Yeah.
engage with it is how the algorithm or whatever determines what's right for you type situation. And
Yes.
but when you say, because when you first go there, because I remember when I first set up my account, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff hitting me here, and then a lot of it's like music based and stuff, and we might get that initial impression of first like, oh, this might not be relative for me and trying to do things, but it's more having that understanding. And I love that you showcase that it's not necessarily all about the music. I mean, those can be
Mm-hmm.
definitely used in certain strategies and ways, I'm sure, but at the same time with the sounds in terms of how it can really pertain to your niche, I love that you called that out, because I think that's a really easy way for people maybe to get sidetracked or realize or think that, hey, maybe this isn't a good platform for me, even though it could be. It definitely could be. So
Definitely.
thank you for calling that out because that I like I said, it's an area that I think a lot of people could miss the mark on potentially.
Definitely. And I guess for those kind of looking at it from an adult perspective, maybe they can remember, especially for games, some of the older generation would remember, like on YouTube or other platforms, there used to be edited videos of animes with like cool music in the background, and like there would be cool anime moments, and like
Yes.
people would just create that type of content. And TikTok is still doing that. For example,
Mm.
for our game My Child Lebensborn, that's how we kind of got attention, because people were creating musical edits of the game. And I think that's the case for many other games as well. So even though when you first open the TikTok app, you may see just like pop songs that are just for, teenagers, and they're just dancing using those sounds. It shows like that when you first open it. But when you dive deeper, there are really good musical content as well, and it could fit your game in edit forms or any other forms, really. It's
So
not just pop music as well. Like I know we said it's not just music, there are sounds in other ways as well, but even if it's music, it could be very different from music to music on TikTok.
so everything you're saying sounds like there's just lots of different opportunities and way to tackle this.
Exactly.
Sweet.
Exactly.
Well, I want to move on a little bit,
Yeah.
but still understanding, this platform a little bit more, because from what I understand, there are certain types of accounts that can be created on TikTok, and you mentioned it earlier in terms of whether it's more brand focus or maybe it's even maybe the game, but maybe a little bit more personable. So, what are the different types of accounts, and can they actually dictate the strategy that's used to create awareness for your game or studio?
Yes, definitely. So right now there are, I think, only two types of accounts on TikTok. When we started in 2021 summer, there were three types: personal, creator, and business. And when you use a personal account, it doesn't really give you a lot of data about how your videos are performing or who is watching your videos and all that jazz. But it gives you a lot more opportunities to dive into the trends and sounds that I mentioned.
Hmm.
Because with a creator or business account, well, I think creator is not a thing anymore, but I'm not sure. In some regions, I think it's still a thing. But as a business account, for example, you are actually not able to use copyrighted sounds. And most of the time, TikTok is a platform for personal users, not business users. So when a sound is very useful and it brings a lot of engagement or impressions, it might be under a copyright and you can't use it as a business. But uh, I feel business account worked really well for us because one, the data that we saw about our users, where they were from, how our videos performed in specific ways, it was worth more than the copyrighted sounds. And I would recommend people to start off with a personal account, maybe, to grow their TikTok at the first place and just have that flexibility while they're getting to know the music there, the sounds there, just so they have the ability to just try things and experiment a little bit more. But maybe switch to a business account afterwards when you're a little bit more serious about what you're doing there. Um, and I would say the main difference between personal and business accounts, apart from the data part, as a business account, we had a lot of opportunities to engage with TikTok's team, the the support group that TikTok has for businesses,
Hmm.
and we started using paid advertisements on TikTok, which is something that we never did before. But yeah, we really cherish the platform at this point, so we wanted to try little by little. And having that business account and that relationship with the TikTok team really helped because TikTok is also super new everywhere. So they really want to support businesses and especially games on TikTok as well. So that business account kind of gives you more contacts and more maybe early looks to what might happen to TikTok in the long term because they are still growing the platform. They are making it more fitting for games. So yeah, that might be a decision factor. If you're on TikTok for sure, and like that's a part of your whole strategy for your game, you might prefer business account. But
Ah,
if you're just trying things out, start out with personal, have fun, and then see where you want to go with this.
I really like that you called that out because this is something that's kind of common on the show in terms of how we talk about other platforms and stuff, which is, in terms of what direction, but being mindful, what does a platform not necessarily represent, but what are they looking for? What's in their best interest? And a big one
Mm.
that comes up on any platform is they want people to stay engaged and stay on the platform as long as possible because it's in their best interest. It's probably in the interest of their growth and revenue and everything else that they do, right? So
Yeah,
to call out to say that, hey, look, they're actually growing the space. It's in their best interest to, in terms of catering to games. So they're going to provide that support and everything else. And it's only a direction that they're going to be going in further. I mean, think of it too. I mean, as far as the gaming industry as a whole, it's like I keep losing track now, but we're in like I don't know, mid. I want to say like at least like 40, or I haven't been keeping track, but we're talking about like $40 billion, right? Or right
yeah,
around there, and it keeps growing
definitely.
year over year. So obviously, this is an area of interest for TikTok, and for you to say that and call out to that, it's great because then it allows you to look at things differently or more from a higher level in terms of what's really if there's value in it for them and heading in that direction, especially as we're talking about games here, then that's also of interest. But also just,
Definitely.
and then going back to the other things too, you mentioned about like the data versus not, but also like starting out. I think it's a great way to approach things, starting out personally, growing from there, and then really looking into the business side because that data component, that support component is obviously all very helpful things to grow. And again, it creates other opportunities, as you mentioned, for your studio and working really well on that front as you continue to move
Definitely.
forward.
Yeah, and I would say that decision of starting off with personal or business depends on your size or role on the team as well. If you're a solo dev, a personal account is like all you will need probably because you are already busy making a game. So you really don't want to care about the nitpicky types like, oh, where did this person come from? Like, why did this video perform super well? Like those data focused things may not be relevant to a smaller team or a team without a community manager, for example. But if you do have a community manager that's like focusing on that strategy part, then maybe even starting off with a business account is the best way to go. So then you can still experiment, but make decisions based on the data that you get from those experiments as well, rather than getting used to the platform.
Yeah, and what? I'm glad you brought that up because it's a great segue into another thing I was a little bit curious about, which is like, are there ways that kind of like, and I think we might have mentioned this, you might have mentioned this earlier, but are there ways to target or tell that the posts are reaching the right audience? So I would imagine that some of that data aspect can share light on it, but what are other things that maybe people can potentially better target their users with?
Yeah, this is a funny thing to me because again, our experience on TikTok is mostly with My Child Born, and as I described the game, it's very heavy, and we always thought our right audience, our target, would be mature adults that know about this side of history as well, maybe, and like they can relate to being a parent a little bit more. However, when we got on TikTok, we actually had a lot of attention from Gen Z and like children, teenagers. Um, so I guess the first question is, are you sure you have the right audience? And can you actually check it to see like if it is actually the right audience, or maybe TikTok is helping you find the right audience? Um, because I'm kind of getting separated from the question, but I do want to say we didn't realize Gen Z would be so receptive of social topics. But after we started engaging with them, we realized, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense because
Mm.
these children got born into this like mess of the world. For the past 3 years, they've been in lockdowns with COVID, and like the world is burning inside. So they are actually hyper aware of the issues that are going on in our world, and they are actually very like attentive, and they can be super mature, even though they are kind of sarcastic in their matureness. Um, so yeah, I guess if you know your audience and you're trying to see if your post reached the audience, engaging with the comments and the people that are kind of trying to talk to you on the platform is the best way to see. Um, and demographic data, I personally don't like using demographic data as a targeting tool,
Mm,
but you do get a lot of metrics on, again, the age, the gender, the region that you kind of reach. So those are always easier to see. Hashtags or the sounds are not really useful to actually tell if your post reached someone or not. Because, again, like I said, a lot of different niches use the same sounds or even similar tags, really. And it may reach a completely different niche. So, yeah, I would say specifically targeting like a specific type of person on TikTok is kind of hard because it is a big platform. It kind of shows everything to everyone on the niche that you're hitting. But you can see if you are hitting a specifically fitting niche on your own profile. So curating your own content, so
mm,
engaging with other videos on TikTok and kind of teaching the algorithm where you fit on this social media platform uh, is the best way to do it. So maybe engaging with other similar games, or again, for us, we have social topics. So we had a lot of like mental health type of creators on TikTok that we always see on our For You page. And whenever we kind of scroll, we say, oh, okay, like these are very relevant to our brand as well. So I guess we are in this niche now. The algorithm knows that we are here, and it kind of shows our content to these people as well. So maybe that's the only way to see if you're reaching the similar vibe people, apart from the demographics. But yeah, apart from that, comments is the best way to go.
yeah, I love that, and I think that makes sense. I mean, and by you know understanding how this platform works better, that makes complete sense because as you said it, yeah, there's a lot of different types of people with
Yeah.
different interests and stuff on this platform. So even though you might be reaching them and you think, oh, this isn't ideal, let the engagements, let the conversations kind of dictate that because as you mentioned, you started finding out that hey, these audiences here are actually in line with the type of people we want to be in front of, but we just wouldn't expect it because we thought maybe they're just not as mature for this type of content when that was
Hmm.
really, counter to that point. It was really that they are. And then the other thing too, in terms of curation, and I can say this too from firsthand experience where when I was beginning to understand the platform more, I was like, okay, there's a bunch of random stuff, and half of this is, I think, garbage.
Yeah.
But then as I started engaging, and it's cool, like targeting through engagement is basically what it comes down to, and what you're saying, and even my own, because in terms of me being as a user, let's say, being targeted better, I would flip past all the stuff I thought was like not worth my time, but then I saw game related stuff and I quickly liked it. I might have commented, whatever, and keep going. And now every time I open up the app, that same thing is happening. So definitely great advice there in terms of how to really curate that content. And again, I'm sure it gives you other ideas and things like that on how to take your own approach and
Yeah.
develop your own strategies when moving forward.
And it's also a great way to just find other developers that you might want to
Right.
collaborate with, for example. Or again, TikTok is super new, so everyone is learning together. So just like don't be afraid to, if you see a content that's really similar to yours, just go and ask like, oh, how did you actually hit this niche? Like, can you help us? And all of the devs, I'm sure, would be very happy to answer your questions as well. So I guess the algorithm kind of helps find um, co-creators with you in this sense as well, or influencers. Even maybe you see someone that's super fitting for your game and you send a key, and now you have more content around your game, which
There
is
you
cool.
go. Lots of opportunities.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before we jump into the next section, I want you to kind of give us a quick few bullet points on this one because I know it's probably important and on people's mind is like we mentioned, considering the time commitment and resources needed to create posts. So,
Mm.
what does that look like? And also, can those efforts be scaled? So, are any examples you can provide in terms of creating that content?
Yes, definitely. The time commitment, it's definitely scalable, depending on your resources. I had, again, solo dev friends that were just doing it on their own, and they were like posting maybe one or two TikToks every week, and they were just testing things out. And it's still an amazing thing to do because, like I said, TikTok is a lottery. Maybe that one or two posts can actually get some traction and gives you like super fast results. Usually, when you do start out, people say try to post at least 3 times a day, which sounds like a lot of content, but
Mm.
these posts are like 15 seconds maximum. Nobody has the attention to watch anything above 15 seconds on TikTok, I believe. So these are just very short, very easy posts that could be a face video where you go, oh, hey, we did this update, check it out. Or a gameplay video where you just share this like specific moment, or there is this like sound that you really liked and you just used it. So these are very easy efforts, and I think the time commitment usually comes from idea generation rather than the creation of the content,
Oh, okay.
um,
Yep.
which again could be very tricky because idea generation, I usually find it from TikTok itself. I scroll through other people's videos. I try to see like how others use the trending sound in different ways. And when you're in that TikTok field, you can kind of scroll for hours.
Yep.
Um, so that could be very time consuming. But for example, there are platforms like Talkboard where you can see the trending sounds for that week, very straightforward. So I do try to make routines of, okay, every week I sit down, I listen to the top 15 sounds very fast because like sometimes it's just a pop song that's not even relevant to us, but sometimes it's a trending sound that could fit our niche. And I just jot down ideas on, okay, like we can make this post and then like share it this day, or I just create an idea list. And when I do need to post stuff, it's just like an easier process to create the TikTok itself. um, so yeah, it's definitely like a spectrum of time commitment. You can just choose to do it whenever you have that spark of inspiration to do a TikTok, or you can actually do it like me and like have routines to create ideas. Um, and again, that depends on your resources that you have, and it's definitely not something you have to do. I think just being on TikTok is getting you ahead of the game, really.
Excellent. Yeah, and I honestly can probably attest to what you said too, doing that or creating ideas first instead of spur of the moment,
Mhm.
because I've had some of my own moments that were spur of the moment, and I find in comparison, not that I have a huge presence on the platform, but it saves so much more time if you come up
Yeah.
with the list of ideas. And if sometimes I think me personally, I get a little bit over ambitious with some of the content that I'm doing, and I realize, okay, it took way more time than I wanted. However, the next time around and next time, I end up seeing that cutting in half. So it's like an iterative process, as it sounds like you're saying too. But I love how you're saying, like, maybe there's a perfectionist on my side of things coming out, and let's
Hmm.
not let that be the case, everyone, because that's
Yeah.
gonna make it so much harder than you probably need to for yourself. Which
Definitely. I do relate to your perfectionist point though, because I did have, like, I spent an hour just editing that 1 second to fit a specific beat in the sound,
yes.
which doesn't, like, it's not gonna affect anything,
No.
but, yeah, no need to do that, definitely. But I also sometimes see other developers using, for example, Premiere Pro to actually create, like, high quality content, like they are
Yep.
doing YouTube content, for example, and that's definitely not needed. I think using TikTok's own editing tools is super useful. It's very straightforward, or just like using an additional app on your phone where you can just like put things together and then set it out instead of editing those like every single moment type of thing. Um, but of course, sometimes you do want to do high quality content and like
Right.
do it, go for it. It's not bad that you do it, but don't make it a must for everything that you do on TikTok. I think like it's very easy to just go, okay, 1 second content, put it out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I mean, so a lot of this might be new to people, but don't be a perfectionist because what
Yeah.
you're doing just gets out there. It shows that you're just kind of like another person, or it makes it at least a lot more personable. So it's about getting out there and implementing, opposed to making it perfect. Because, like you said, down to that last second, and I can completely relate with you there, trying to get it just right. And I'm like, oh, but then I looked off and looked a little weird there. It's like, who cares?
Oh
It's that's life,
yeah.
folks. So
Yeah.
glad
We
that you
had
shared that.
days where we wanted to share something like that day because we were sharing every day. We didn't want to mess that up. And what I would do is basically like go to our game designer while they're taking lunch, and I say, "Hey, react to this." And they're like eating lunch and they're just looking at something, and that's content. Why
Right.
not? Like that day is maybe not relevant to the gameplay itself, but it's still content. Do it, put it out there. Maybe people like that better.
Yeah, exactly. And that like could, being a little bit more personable and stuff, it might,
Yeah.
like, again, attract more people, and then you can kind of drill down and further better understand if it's the right people by, again, going and commenting or engaging with them as they engage with the future content. And then you can really get a better idea of like, hey, if I reach out with this totally unrelated type thing to the game or even the studio, but it's something that like is in line with just us as people, it like maybe that could be a good approach that people use. Who knows? But still, it's again, it's about that personable aspect, and a
Definitely.
way of making content pretty quickly without that could be spur of the moment content that actually does take, you know, maybe 3 minutes, like boom,
Yeah.
done. So I love it.
And if you do want to take time to do something on TikTok, it's responding to comments,
Yeah.
especially right after you share something and people are just writing things. I think it is immensely important to engage with the people as soon as possible, like right after you have the content out there, because people see that you are reacting, you are talking to them, and they start writing more, they're engaging more, and that actually has this algorithm boost as well because people are engaging with the post, so it takes you to even more visible places on the algorithm. Um, so just yeah, I guess that's the fun and most time consuming part, talking to people and ask people questions, like open conversations in your comment section saying, oh, what did you like about this, or what are you doing today, and just get that interaction going, because that then helps you much more than the hours that you spent fixing that little sound beat.
Exactly. All right. Well, I want to shift things a little bit because as awesome as everything we're talking about to further understand the platform and ways to go about using it, um, a lot of the reason why you're doing this and a lot of other people are thinking about doing this is, get into the results and and other
Mhm.
benefits of it. So first, though, results. Just from your perspective, and maybe some other ideas you may have, what do results typically look like for game creators and studios that are using or plan to use TikTok?
In our case, awareness was number one. So views, impressions. It's like I said, a great above funnel stage for marketing efforts as well.
Hmm.
And the I guess in our case, we did have an inverted results look into the process, because how we got on TikTok was we realized we were getting a lot of sales from Brazilian Portuguese audiences,
Ah.
and we were kind of looking, okay, where is this coming from? Why are we kind of like getting this immense attention? And they were already an audience for us, but they were not attending the game this much. So, and then we realized, oh, we are actually kind of trending on TikTok. Like people are sharing hashtag my child Lebensborn and like sharing content on TikTok. So we jumped on the platform and started creating things. So the first result that we got was like an immense impression number where our videos would get tons of views. We would get, like, in 1 week, I think we hit 100,000 followers on TikTok, like super fast. Um, so that was a combination of TikTok bringing the audience to us versus us coming to TikTok after the audience was already there.
Mm.
Um, But after we were on the platform and we started pushing things even more, that like maybe it would have become a very small trend for Brazilian audiences only. But since we started creating English content as well, and we started pushing it in like the U.S. time zones, for example, or Asian time zones, and we had like content coming up for each time zone. Really, we actually pushed that virality to other markets, and that resulted in immense sales for us as well because our game is also primarily a mobile game. And when people started hearing about this like game going viral, they would go and try it. And I think, in 1 month we had 7,000% increase in our sales,
Wow. Yep.
which was crazy. It for an indie game developer, we were kind of shocked at the success. So I think it definitely has a direct return in sales as well. Or for example, for PC games, a lot of other developers see a boost in their wish lists on Steam pages because when that awareness converts into interest quite fast on TikTok. Um, and we did try to do another more focused campaign. Like we couldn't keep going with 3 times a day every day type of post on TikTok, but we tried to do
Yep.
a December campaign where we did that again, kind of, and we started like engaging with people again. We started sharing more stuff about us as Sarepta and a second my child game and all that, and that again turned into uh, another viral period for us. In January, we had the game go viral for a Russian community this time, and again that resulted in like a 365% increase in our sales again. So like there is this super fast conversion between impressions and that attention to sales. And I don't know if this is typical, but I do know that conversion is really easy to see on TikTok once you get that first impression number going.
Yeah, and when you say first impression number, that could be. I mean, it could be maybe it for you guys. It's not, and I hear stories like this too. It could have been like, kind of like short. For other people, it could be a little bit longer than that. But still, that cycle is pretty short term compared to a lot of other platforms. Would you say that's fairly accurate?
Definitely. And I don't think there is any other platform where you can put out content and have like 30,000 people see it in the next hour.
Right.
I think TikTok is very unique with that.
And at least
So,
if if you were able to on another platform, well, it's more of a fact of you were it was used to, because everybody
hmm,
seems to throttle that down. Um, you make some really interesting, uh, you know, claims there and stuff with, or I mean, not necessarily claims. I mean, these are actual results that your studio is getting. But my question is too is, you know, how are you able to effectively attribute, or even if you loosely attribute, what's a good way of doing that? Is it simply like timing of when you're making these posts, or because let's say you have a lot of other campaigns going on, how do you effectively attribute the results to TikTok?
so as again a small team, we have very little platforms that we focus on. We have a Twitter, we have a Discord, and we have TikTok right now. And I don't think we do anything else anywhere. And before, we would just have this constant stream of, um, social media marketing and just being very socially, digitally available. Uh, and that really never attributed to anything else. Like we didn't see those returns when we posted something. But on TikTok, when we post something and we see, oh, okay, at this point we hit For You page. Now we have 100,000 people seeing this. And the next day we see, oh, okay, there was this like increase that specific day on our sales by this percent. So we kind of like say, oh, okay, then, and we didn't do anything else. So this probably came from TikTok, or at least was kickstarted by the word of mouth going on TikTok. Um, that's again for the unpaid part of things. That's mostly it.
Hmm.
We did try to invest in like a small paid campaign in December, and with that paid campaign on TikTok, we did see direct, the clicks
Yep.
from TikTok, and then we didn't have the data set on our game where we would track like, oh, okay, those that clicked, how many of them downloaded the game. Like we couldn't see that,
Yep.
but from those clicks we used like UTM links, for example.
Yep.
So UTM links are links where you can just track where, like which link kind of directs people to the place that you're directing them to. And we would see TikTok specifically, which would help us understand, okay, this was a good investment.
Great. So, I mean, so it sounds like it can be a combination depending on the strategy or campaign you're using. So, if let's say you're just making some posts and you see a lot of impressions and everything, and then likewise you see those same type of traffic, wish lists, and or sales, that's generally an indicator. Now, if obviously if let's say you're doing a big push for a release and you decided to take a super holistic approach with everything,
Yeah.
maybe perhaps that might be a little bit difficult to attribute. But it sounds like by being so focused and
Mm.
limited on your approaches, that's one good way to attribute. And then of course the other is
Yeah.
having
To
ads or whatever to and using
to
UTM parameters.
definitely, and to clarify, I would say TikTok conversions are very much due to the word of mouth. So that's
Mm,
why there is this like impression to conversion thing going on, because those impressions carry the word of mouth quite well. And I think that's why I always attribute the success to TikTok. But in our campaigns, yeah, we do have a lot of uh, influencers supporting us during this process as well. For example, we would reach out to game influencers on TikTok to say, hey, can you, like, we are announcing this update for the game, this language update. Can you help us boost this up a little bit? And they would help us, and like they would just make one more TikTok. And people that are in the hashtag my child Lebensborn niche, for example, I think hashtags are, by the way, really good to label your specific game as a niche,
mm.
but nothing else, I would say. Um, so when they like created content with hashtag my child Lebensborn, anyone that's interested in that would see it and start talking about it. Um, and we did have non TikTok influencers kind of covering the game. We had press, and I guess I'm comparing it to our previous experience where we worked with influencers and we got like a very small amount of sales, versus we have TikTok content that we're creating, TikTok influencers, outside influencers, and in combination it boosts the message so much with word of mouth that it has more effect.
Yeah,
So I guess that's the
yeah, it makes so much sense, and again, it's really I mean, as you were saying that, part of me was thinking like, well, you could always just stop and really find out, but would we ever want to do
true.
that? Like, of course not. But I mean, to the point, based off of like how this platform is structured and everything, there is that whole aspect. A lot of it is word of mouth. I mean, how many
Mhm.
times do we see ourselves? I do this more often than I'd like to admit, but I'll be on TikTok and then I'll be like, oh, this is a really good recipe, and I'll show it to my wife. and
Yeah.
and I mean that's just one out of numerous different types of word of mouth, and ultimately everyone is that's what we're looking for, right? Like that's the ultimate goal as creators, as in us as Eylul and I, in terms of our goals is to create word of mouth marketing. And definitely
Definitely.
from your experience, it sounds like that is greater potential of happening with a platform like TikTok.
Yeah, and I would love to say, like your example with sharing the recipe with your wife, that's super important. Because I think everyone should label their content with shareability versus informative, definitely on TikTok. Because whenever we have a super boost, for example, when we check the metrics, we see, yes, the views are quite similar in most of the videos, but the share is very different. One video gets like 4,000 shares while the other gets like 300 shares maybe. And when we check the sales, those are the days when like that specific video got tons of shares. Those are the days when the
Ah,
sales kind of get boosted as well. So shareability is super important. And I would say it kind of shifts the marketing funnel. You use TikTok as awareness. You kind of get people converted super fast with word of mouth, and you have sales. And I would say they should come back to TikTok so you can retain them as well. And that should shift the types of content that you put out there as well. So some content is for awareness for those that are very new to your game, to your studio, while others are for those like more loyal people that are following you and they are trying to hear what else are you working on. Um, so that shareability is still available for all types of audience, really.
Yeah. And I like that point because let's face it, folks, even if, what is it? I think Seth Godin has made lots of
Mm-hmm.
quotes. He's a marketing guy if you're not familiar with him. And he's one of his main things is that he says is along these lines is basically make something shareable, right? As simple as
Yeah.
that. However, as you outlined, it's not all about getting the shares. There might be because as you outlined and from your own results, the shares can definitely equate to more sales. But if you're always trying to create that content that's always shareable, it might not be
Yeah.
scalable. It might not be as efficient as it could be. It might be a lot more work. So kind of like the awareness and then maybe lower funnel shareable content, if you will, is one
Definitely.
a great way to approach it, and kind of like maybe a two, and maybe there might be a three-prong approach that you come up with that works really well in terms of getting those results.
Yeah, we did have periods where we would lose followers because we kept trying to focus on shareability since we saw results, you know. But the people were trying to get news about the game rather than the shocking content that would be very shareable to them.
Mm,
So yeah, the balance is definitely out there, and retaining your loyal audience is going to be super helpful. I think like TikTok, yes, it is a big platform, it's growing. It may not be forever.
right,
Relying
exactly. Glad you called that
only
out.
on, yeah, so relying only on TikTok is not really going to get you far. So nurturing your community, and again, we mentioned engaging with the comments and everything. Um, those are the things that get your audience to become a fan of you and your brand and your game. Um, and I would definitely recommend like pinpointing, okay, where else should people go after TikTok? Yeah, they saw it, they learned it on TikTok, it went like super trendy for a little bit, but then what else are they gonna do? Like they
Yeah.
should still talk about it. So we use Discord really heavily right now, and this is also because we are working on a second game for the IP, and it helps us kind of interact with the loyal audience to see, okay, what do they expect, what are they like what type of audience do we have right now, because again, big awareness, a very varying differences between like target audiences and their demands as well.
Yep.
So having that timeline for yourself is gonna help you a lot, even after maybe TikTok is no longer a thing. Like Vine was a thing and then it went away. So who knows what happens?
But no, to your point, and I'm glad you said this, and we talk about on the show a lot, is really understand and know that user journey. Yes, that you have an idea of, hey, they can go to TikTok and then go and buy my game. Great. But that could not last forever. But even so, even if it does last forever, how are you going to be mindful? What is that journey, that player journey like? And because now you're because by creating this mindset that you just outlined, now you're being more aware of how they can contribute to the community, and what does that look like from a greater perspective as you start building a new building up the IP and everything else, and working towards other projects. There's so much more that comes from this outside of just the platform itself. And yes, it could be said about other platforms, but I'm so happy you
Mhm.
called that out, because a lot of times I think our focus with these things is, hey, it's a hot new platform, it's getting
Yeah,
results, let's just do that. But there's so much more to it than just that. So,
yeah.
very valuable
And
information there.
I'm going on a tangent here, but a big reason why I like this TikTok trend right now is, yes, there's awareness, there's like trends and everything, but then there are people still there, still engaging with our content, and they are a part of our community, even on Discord or on other platforms as well. But since we are more active on TikTok, they are commenting there, they're engaging there, and now we start getting other people replying to other people's comments, as we were doing when we first started. Like we would share something and one person would go, "Hey, why is the game not free?" Because mobile games are usually free and such. And we would have very detailed explanations because like sometimes people are mean, but they might be children as well. So we explain things very explicitly.
Mm.
And after a while, after we built that relationship, even on TikTok, our audience started giving those exact same replies to each other. So we wouldn't even have to answer questions anymore because they know the answers, the loyal fans, and they start replying and they start engaging, which again has the algorithm boost as well. And it's just heartwarming to see, because we have a lot of like frequently asked questions. Why is it not free? Why doesn't it have like multiple endings and such? And since it's based on real history, like that's the reason. And people now know the replies and they exactly use our same words to
Yes.
reply other
Yep.
people, which is amazing. And yeah, it's like an easy thing for them to do because otherwise on another platform, maybe you would need to direct someone to a wiki page, or maybe on Discord you would reply but it's gone after people talk more,
And
or on Twitter again maybe it's gone after a few more posts, but on TikTok the video is there, the question is there,
right.
and people replied it, it's there.
And that's a good point too, because a lot of time we think of when that type of engagement occurs, typically we're thinking, oh, it's within a community, a new community member or whatever, and then the community kind of like maintains itself a little bit where they provide that extra support, or users are like,
Mhm.
oh, this is the reason why for this, and they're like, okay. But you're talking about on a platform where this is happening, and that isn't as common, I think, which is really exciting and rewarding, because like you said, typically it's, oh, here's a link to the FAQ, or here now I have to spend the time and effort to explain these things, when now you're in a platform of all places,
Yeah.
not like a very focused one such as like Discord that's able to
Mhm.
moderate that for you. So that is really cool, and something I wouldn't have expected myself. So it's glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Um, all right. As we're getting ready to close here, and thank you again. There's so much value here. I'm getting excited, and I hope everybody else that's listening is too. But despite all that, I as we get ready to close, I definitely want to talk about some couple quick lessons learned, or in terms of what you would advise on people. So, like, for example, what are some mistakes you kind of commonly see people make when they're starting out on the platform, and any good ideas on what not to do or how to avoid them?
The first one definitely is not using the sounds because you think they're cringy or something. That's a big mistake. Always use sounds, or else nobody is going to see your content because TikTok is based on sound.
Mm,
Not experimenting and not having fun is definitely a big one. Um, because yeah, it is very easy to, especially as a maybe a millennial trying to fit into this like Gen Z populated platform. It's kind of hard to put yourself out there and like try to have fun with it, or maybe it doesn't fit your brand, I'm gonna say. But at Sarepta we literally try to make people cry, but yet again we do engage in trends, so it can be done no matter what your brand looks like.
great
So
example.
definitely experiment, try to have fun with others as well, like join trends, maybe try to look at trends from your niche's perspective, as I said. um, and I guess another mistake is taking too much time, I would say,
Mm,
on anything. Again, maybe for post creation or just thinking about TikTok. I think you should be on TikTok right now. You're getting late. Go try now before it's too late. Because yeah, why not? Just put that game gif out there and maybe somebody likes it and maybe you learn something else about your audience. So I guess experiment and not experimenting is the mistake that I'm saying here mostly.
awesome. All right then. So, right before we close, then, because this is a good segue into this too, are there any like major suggestions or tips that you would recommend to listeners? Like let's say three of them. What would you say are the best things to keep in mind as they're getting ready and tackling TikTok?
Batch preparing a little bit of your content is going to help you a lot, because when you do get started, that frequency is kind of important. And again, on TikTok, quantity is over quality. So just try random stuff and put them out there to see how the algorithm kind of reacts. Um, Try to take time to understand the platform. So give it maybe a month of usage time of your own personal time, even to see what are the other niches. Can you actually see the value of the platform? And trying to, this brings us back to your first question maybe, but trying to establish what you expect to have and where you are in the game development cycle that you have. Maybe you don't have a game and you're producing it, like you still have the production going. What do you expect TikTok to do with that? Like pinpointing those points are going to be very helpful. So those three would be my suggestions. Maybe the fourth one is have the consumer journey as well. Don't just put things on TikTok and then let it go to the void. Like have places to retain people. Maybe a website, maybe link a newsletter to your bio, or have a Discord and all that jazz. Just have other places to nurture as well for retention purposes. If things suddenly go viral, because it sometimes happen and you don't expect it to.
All amazing stuff. And please, people, really consider these, because from our talk today and everything, Eylul clearly like has a system down. It's clearly benefiting the studio, and it's just all great stuff here. So again, thank you so much for providing these tips. And now, before you head out, would love for you to share what are good ways people can connect with you if they're able to, or what's the website, and any other information you want to share about Sarepta and anything else.
Yeah, for our other games, or if you want to cry a little, sareptastudio.com is the place to go to check what we are doing. On social media, we do use Twitter a lot for our studio. So Sarepta Studio at Sarepta Studio is our Twitter. For me personally, I'm at Rosecat. If you want to send me a DM and just chat about these like fun community things, I like going on a tangent on motivation types of audiences and such. So if you want to do that, come bring it to me. And on TikTok, we are My Child Game on TikTok, and we just built a Sarepta TikTok as well. It's at Sarepta Studio. So that's more of the cringier content that we're gonna go with, and I'll let you know how that goes.
Awesome. Well, definitely looking forward to it. And please, everyone, check out check out the games, check out the studio, but of course, obviously, check out the TikTok. It's a great. They are a great source, as you can imagine, of inspiration and ideas on how to take those approaches. And again, Eylul, thank you so much for being here. This is so exciting and so insightful too. And like I said earlier, I'm pumped about this, and I'm sure everybody else here listening today is as well. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Indie Game Movement. I'm Andrew Pappas, your host, and the show's producer is Mustafa Price. If you enjoy and value the show's content, you can support us even more by going to Patreon and visiting www.patreon.com/IGM podcast and select the tier that best suits your needs. Show notes for this episode can be found by visiting rengenmarketing.com, the number episode of the show. Rengen Marketing is a consulting marketing company that helps indie devs with their marketing efforts. Whether you need guidance with your game's marketing strategy or could use a free marketing plan template, then please visit www.rengenmarketing.com and take action. A special thanks to Dakota Saw for Season 2's opening theme and Melissa Gellis for the new logo design. And as always, thanks for being such great listeners, and we'll see you next time on Indie Game Movement.